Hey guys, Dean of DVD. I don't often appear on camera, but when Joel, or the Collector 1138, asked me if I wouldn't mind doing a video and that he'd prefer if I did show up on camera, how could I say no? Joel and Collector 1138 and the Enemy of Bohemia are also known as the Cinemologists, so they have a channel. And they're doing something on the Criterion Collection. Of course, I'm a big fan of the Criterion Collection. So how could I pass up this opportunity to talk about the Criterion Collection, and in particular, animated movies and their possible place in the Criterion Collection? So first of all, they asked a few questions, about 4 or so. And first question was, what's your history with, or your opinion of, the Criterion Collection? Well, I long heard about certain movies that I hadn't seen, or I'd seen years ago. And really, the movie that started me down the path with the Criterion Collection was this one right here. Bergman's The Seventh Seal. When I was a child, I saw this on public television, and I was drawn to it. It was in Swedish with subtitles. I was probably 10 years old or something. And I was fascinated by it. The whole beach scene with death, and then the traveling the countryside, and some of the little villages and the quirky people that were there, and it just really captivated me. There was an underlying sexual tone to things, and for a 10-year-old boy, you gravitated toward that. So this movie in particular was what got me into the Criterion Collection, because I wanted to get a copy of this. And when I researched about where to get a copy, the only place that made sense was the Criterion Collection, because it had a ton of extras on it, because it would be of higher quality than anything else I could find, and loved everything about it. So this Blu-ray was my first Criterion Collection pickup, along with a few others. I couldn't just buy one. And that's been the case with Criterion Collection ever since. I find a movie I want, or I see what's in the Criterion Collection, and read about it, and read some reviews, and I'm drawn to it. So this started me off, but how can you pass up a collection that has things like Charlie Chaplin's Modern Times, a true classic of comedy and silent film, and here it is, restored and pristinely restored on a 2K digital transfer, just beautifully done. So this is another reason I love Criterion Collection. It takes a great movie like 12 Angry Men with Henry Fonda, such a classic performance with all these great stars, and does it justice. It takes the human condition and shows us high stress and drama in a movie like The Wages of Fear. Oh, by the way, I recommend all these. And one of my favorite films, or my favorite directors actually, as well, you take a simple thing like trying to find a job in post-war Italy, and you turn it into a drama of the human condition in Bicycle Thieves. Lovely movie. You've got documentaries on the Criterion Collection, like Hoop Dreams and Gimme Shelter, and others. You've got childhood revisited in movies like Fellini's Emmerchord or Truffaut's 400 Blows. Both excellent. They're all excellent. And then, the movie that I'd heard so much about over the years that I hadn't seen, I saw bits and pieces of it in documentaries and things over the years, but I never saw this movie, and boy, what an epic classic movie. And what a wonderful director. Akira Kurosawa's Seven Samurai. You can't beat movies like this. So, is it an awesome collection? Absolutely. I own 150 of them. You can see many of them behind here on my shelves. I own quite a few. It's about 150, give or take, maybe a little more. Love the Criterion Collection. That's my history. That's how I got involved with the Criterion Collection. Some of the movies that I enjoy, I enjoy a lot more than that, but just picked out a handful here to show. But what about animation? Does animation deserve a spot in the Criterion Collection? Probably. Should it be in the Criterion Collection? Well, yes and no. And I realize that answer seems like a political one, and maybe it is. I say yes and no because, for me, my favorite animated movie, and the one that I go back to time and time again, is Pinocchio. Why is it my favorite? It's the first movie I ever saw when I was a child. My father took me to it. I remember, it's your first movie, and your first movie, in my opinion, should be an animated movie when you're a child. I was probably 5 years old, maybe 4 years old. Old enough to sit through it and not fall asleep, and I was glued to it. But my eyes were wide open. Here I was staring at this big screen, and back then, the curtains parted, and I don't remember a lot of previews back then. I don't think there were, and they started the film, and it just exploded with color. And I'd seen cartoons on television before, but not like this. It exploded with color and magic and music, and the animation was gorgeous, and the color tone was the color palette was beautiful. The voices and everything was just perfect to me in Pinocchio. And what better story than a story about a boy, a puppet who wants to become a real boy, and a father who wants to have a son, and the love that Geppetto has for Pinocchio. What a great movie. What a great animated movie. So that's my favorite. But the problem with it is, it's a Disney movie. My bet is the Criterion Collection, or anybody else for that matter, is not going to get a hold of a Disney property. Disney guards that stuff, take it out of the vault, so to speak, every so often, and put it out on Blu-ray or whatever else comes out down the road. And so a big issue I have with going after animation to any extent is they're never going to get the best animated movies, in my opinion. Are there other great animated movies by some Japanese directors? Anime? Absolutely. Wonderful stuff that's out there. But, and it's a big but, there's also a lot of films with actors and actresses that are missing, or the complete version it hasn't been found at this point. Maybe it will be. Metropolis is a good example, which more and more of that movie gets found over time. There's some other wonderful movies that hopefully will see the light of day at some point. And then there's movies that need to be restored. And to me, the Criterion team does have some of the best restorers out there to be able to remove some of the noise and clean up, the film that's been split and things like that. And they just do a wonderful job on that. And so I think I'd rather they use their talents there than in the animated world, particularly when they're not going to get Disney. So that's my thought. If there were a movie that I'd like to see get the Criterion Collection, there's a lot of them. Pinocchio wouldn't be a bad one. And so maybe that would be it for me. Just gotta love it so much. Something that was packaged with a lot of background on how it was made, and a critical essay, and maybe some interviews with Walt Disney. But that's probably unlikely. But I do feel like animation is an important part of film. Just feel like it can be done with other studios, and have Criterion save their efforts, the folks at Criterion Collection save their efforts for those movies that need to be restored, that need to be cleaned up, that need to find a home somewhere. And I believe that they're doing a great job as it is. So I'll be curious to see what all the other responders have to say on this topic. But for me, I say thumbs down. Thumbs down on animation on Criterion Collection. Let's keep it the way they're going. I don't have a lot of problems with what they're doing. There's a handful of movies I'd really like to see out on Criterion Collection, but perhaps that's for another video. Okay, Joel, Collector 1138, Enemy of Bohemia, the Cinemologists. I wish you guys well with this video, and I can't wait to see the results. So until then, this is Dina DVD saying, take care, guys.